The real test isn't the one we passed in school. The real test is whether we're gonna pass wealth to the next generation or not. You're gonna find me extremely passionate about this topic because I'm a professor of economics. Schools were not designed to make us rich. They were designed to make us reliable, to make us good employees, obedient employees, not creative owners. People who can follow rules, who cannot create them themselves. Workers for factories, later for offices, but never shareholders. Schools taught us the Pythagorean theorem, but they never taught us about compounding. They taught us how to dissect a frog, but not how to dissect a paycheck. They taught us Shakespeare's sonnets, which by the way I love, but they never taught us how to negotiate a rise in our paycheck. And that gap has quietly cost us millions. Think about it. We actually would be able to recite some super important history dates by heart, but most of us graduate without knowing how credit cards silently trap us with 20% interest rates, and without knowing how one simple habit can make us rich. This is what school never taught us about money. But today we are lucky, we can build a curriculum ourselves. You know, we were never broken. We were just never taught the game. Schools taught us the mitochondria of a cell, but not how credit works. And that gap is costing us millions over a lifetime. Let's be clear, schools were not designed to make us rich. They were designed to make us reliable, to make us good employees, obedient employees, not creative owners. People who can follow rules. We were told, do well in school, get a safe job, climb the ladder. But what they didn't tell us is that that ladder is actually leaning on somebody else's wall. And because of all of that design, school prepares us for salaries, not for assets and not for freedom. Schools gave us the math for triangles, but not the math for compounding. And now let's open a big parenthesis, because as a professor of economics, I really care about passing that one thing across. Teachers, professors are taught by staff in universities that they have to grade their students. Grading means assigning a value to somebody's knowledge, and that value is determined on how well they can repeat one specific lesson taught. But everybody learns in a different way. When you give me a piece of information, the way in which I rework that information and truly make it mine is not your way, it's my way. It depends on my past experiences, on everything that I have lived so far, on my way of expressing, saying, thinking, loving, and analyzing and talking. Instead of teaching students, instead of teaching people, instead of teaching us that we need to find our own way of expressing ourselves, of thinking, of reasoning, of connecting the dots of everything that we know, schools, professors, most of the time, teach us to repeat what they know already, instead of trusting that we know what's best for us. Of course, classes are boring, because majority of professors do not want to hear from you what you think. They are just there to convey what they know, and they think they know better and more than you do. But that's not true. That's the reason why schools have prepared us for income and not for assets. There are quite a few formulas that you're never going to see in schools. And the first one is the one that regards wealth. Wealth is created when you multiply assets for time and for the compounding effect. An asset is something that is going to pay us even when we're not there. Stocks, royalties, courses, real estate, businesses. And compounding is the silent snowball that multiplies it all. I actually have always liked a lot the students that have tried to challenge me in class with class topics, asking me questions, wanting to know more, trying to find the gaps in what I was teaching at the time to make the class, my reasoning and my thinking even more interesting. I mean, even just the concept of learning is so wrong, my point of view. You are taught about memorizing and having to repeat over and over something that's hell of a boring already topic and totally useless and has no application with you in your real life. And then you're taught to be silent, sit there and wait for a class to be over. Like what? It's a prison? Instead of teaching us to be creative, teaching us creatively to start a job, creatively to start a career, to start a business, to have a product to resell to others, allowing you to explore and try to do it yourself. Okay, but then what should our curriculum have been? Stop a second and think with me. If our schools were built to build wealth and to help you learn how to build your own wealth in the best possible way, what would that curriculum look like? Just stop a second and tell me, write it down below in the comments. What would you want to see in your school curriculum that would have actually, for real, help you build wealth? For me, one of the first things that comes to mind is trading and investing. 5 very important topics that school should have taught us are: number 1, compounding. And not just theory, but practice. If we had invested $10 a week from age 15, at age 40, we would have been millionaires. And that's not fantasy, it's math. Number 2, credit and debit. What's the reason that banks profit more from our loans than they profit from our savings? Why credit cards are designed to make us pay 20% in interest rates, while if we deposit some money on our credit card, we earn 0.01%. And then there is a big one, negotiation. That's one skill that can earn us 6 figures over a lifetime, only in raises, without even touching what negotiation can do for you, for your business, and for your assets. Instead, we learn about triangles, taxes, and leverage, super important. How is it possible that wealthy people pay less legally, not by cheating, but by structuring their assets? Entrepreneurship and creativity. Schools are teaching us to structure our thoughts, structure our way of doing everything, instead of teaching us to be free and to be creative. They're teaching us to consume knowledge instead of creating it. But at the same time, value creation is really the stepping stone of freedom. Instead, we got GPAs, homework, and the false belief that effort will create freedom. Effort alone will guarantee prosperity. Funny, right? So how do we rewrite the curriculum ourselves? I would tell you, first and foremost, look at your life. If once a year you have to pay taxes, then maybe it's worth to really invest some time into that. Think about compounding your savings over time automatically. Stop looking at your salary. Stop thinking about the fact that your salary maybe or maybe not is going to increase next year, and start thinking in terms of assets. What do you own that can make you money? We were trained to feel guilt when money feels scarce, shame when debt piles up. But let's be clear, it's not our fault. We weren't taught compounding, we were not showed assets. And how could we? Majority of our teachers and professors were not rich themselves. They needed a job. They could not stop teaching just because they wanted to, because they had enough assets on a side, working for them while they sleep. Teachers and professors are very poorly paid themselves. So how could you learn a skill from somebody like that? We were graded on memorization, not on creativity, not on freedom, not on rebellion. And maybe we should have. Just by listening to this, you have started to become more responsible, and responsibility is the door to freedom. Wealth isn't built by working harder, it's built by working smarter. It's built by building smarter over time without stopping, in circles of resting and building systems, resting and building systems, resting and building systems, systems that make us money. School taught us how to pass exams. Nobody taught us how to pass wealth to ourselves and to the next generation. Let's build this curriculum together. Comment below. If we could add one money class to schools, what would that be? The one money class, the one lesson, the one curriculum that would actually make the difference. Which one would it be for you? We are not broken. We are trained by a system designed for obedience, not for freedom. Asset by asset, habit by habit, decision by decision. Because the real test isn't the one we passed in school. The real test is whether we will pass wealth to the next generation or not.